Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council to order. If you would, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials. Grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Riska, can we please have the roll call?
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Mrs. Sarowski?
Here.
Mrs. Koski?
Present.
Mr. Radke?
Present.
Schmidt?
Present.
Mr. Yanes?
Here.
And Mrs. Yarko?
Present.
Council, we need approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First item on our agenda tonight is a report from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to begin by reminding everyone that with the Labor Day holiday, we will have some office closures on Monday, September 4th. So that will, of course, move your refuse collection one day that week. So please take note. If you have collection on Monday, it'll be on Tuesday, and so on through the week. If you have Friday, it'll be on Saturday. So that's coming up for the Labor Day holiday. And Mayor, I'm very excited to talk about the next topic. And many of you know that we have the Velocity Collaboration Center right here in our city. It's one of, it's the only one in Macomb County. It's part of a smart zone, and there's about 15 or so smart zones throughout the state of Michigan. And one is right here in Sterling Heights. And the whole idea behind our Velocity Collaboration Center is to devote resources to encourage businesses to start up in our city. And the center also provides acceleration services to businesses. These are small businesses that need help with marketing, financing, and other support efforts to launch their businesses and then to continue to grow their businesses. And the hope through the Velocity Collaboration Center is that those businesses stay here in Sterling Heights, but it's okay as long as they start up and they prosper. It's okay if they're in the region as well, because we all benefit. So with the Velocity Collaboration Center, we've had the good fortune of working with many small businesses. And as most of you know, small businesses really are the backbone of our economy. We spend a lot of time and effort talking about Ford Motor Company, Stellantis, BAE, General Dynamics, and these very large corporations are critically important to our city and to our regional economy. But the small businesses are equally important. They really make up 70% of our economic growth in the community and really nationwide. So tonight, we're going to be showcasing a new business that has started up in our Velocity Collaboration Center. And we thought the timing for this presentation was very good. The presentation is centered on an interesting, innovative, creative mechanism to partially finance college tuition. And we have a number of interns that are in the audience this evening. We thought it'd be especially good for them to hear about this exciting program and to be able to take advantage of it and potentially save thousands of dollars. So I'd like to introduce the individual that's going to walk us through this presentation, and that is Mark Alexander. He's the president and CEO of Light Tuition. Mark is a dedicated tech entrepreneur, passionate about creating scalable global change that drives innovation and impact. He's earned a bachelor's degree in business administration from Kettering University. He's a board member of Freestar Financial Credit Union. He's on the Clinton Township Zoning Board of Appeals, and when he moves into Sterling Heights, I'm sure the mayor and council will want to have him on our board. And he's president-elect of the Utica-Shelby Township Kiwanis Club. He's a former Housing Commission board member, and he's a former school board trustee. So we're really excited to have Mark with us this evening to talk about this exciting program.
Thank you. It's first, both an honor and pleasure to be here tonight. I would like to share something with you all because in preparation, I watched several council meetings online just to make sure today's presentation went well. and it resonated with me, something one of my board members shared from Freestar. He said, Mark, you know the issue with professionals is they make it look easy. Sitting in those seats is not easy by any means. You have a lot of sacrifices, time with family, time in the community, and just time getting peaceful sleep at night. So thank you all for this opportunity, and we're going to revisit that statement later on in the presentation. In 2009, someone gifted me with an anonymous $16,000 to pay for my last year of college, with the one request that I pay this gift forward. My name is Mark Alexander, founder and CEO of Light Tuition, the only platform that allows students to raise money for tuition that's sent directly to their school without the burden of debt. Meet Lisa. In 2018, Lisa's bankruptcy documents listed how much she had sent over the years to Sallie Mae. After sending over 160 checks of $700 or more, she had paid just over $135,000 on her student loans. Unfortunately for her, roughly $100,000 went towards interest, paying the profits of Sallie Mae. Her balance set at just over $96,000. Here's the kicker. The fact that she was going through breast cancer treatment wasn't sufficient enough to help her with this debt. This is just one of the numerous burdens that Light Tuition is looking to address. Our current educational system has $1.6 trillion and climbing in outstanding student loan debt, with 3.9 million students with loans with no degrees. Compared to other educational systems, ours is difficult to navigate, with access to resources being limited to many. Light Tuition provides an end-to-end solution where transactions are processed through our custom-built platform, stored and protected by financial institutions prior to being dispersed. At Light Tuition, we make signing in and signing up simple. Students can easily create their unique account, create their campaign, and launch all in the same day. And likewise for supporters, they can easily navigate our platform to find an amazing student that they'd like to support. Just as easy as it is to create a campaign, it is even easier to support one. So as we get to this point, one thing our team holds near and dear is this saying: always grow your branches, but never forget your roots. As we look at the educational system nationwide, we have to first say, what is it like in Michigan? We currently have $51 billion in outstanding student loan debt. This is spread across roughly 1.4 million residents with an average balance of $36,000. And this next number, which I think is important, 52% of these loan holders are under the age of 35. Now, why is this important? As we continue to build up our leaders and get them ready for the future, these are people going to be held back in key milestones, whether it's starting your family, having your first child, purchasing that first home. These are future entrepreneurs, future leaders, future voters, as well as future politicians. And we've seen personally, as well as to our users, the adverse effects of student loans. Now, fortunately for us, we realized something very important. Do not let schooling get in the way of your education. Why is it so important to us? Because we realized as we looked at the roadmap for so many of our students, everyone has a very unique journey, a unique story to the path to education. So whether you're getting your traditional bachelor's, master's, or PhD, or you're getting a certification just to brush up on your skills, or as we know in Michigan, which is strong for manufacturing, you're looking to increase your skill trades, Light Tuition is there at every step of the way, no matter the level of education in which you seek. So of course, yes, we're passionate about education, but even more passionate about entrepreneurship. We have been fortunate enough to experience a substantial amount of traction, meeting key milestones, as well as making a great impact globally. We started off with our beta product back in 2020, went on to launch an amazing MVP, where we've now been able to scale astronomically. We're in 3 continents, multiple countries, and nationwide, helping students in so many different communities, which has been amazing for us. We are now paying it forward to students around the world, which has been great for us. But the reason we're here tonight is to talk a little bit more about the impact that you guys have made on this ecosystem. We have over 900,000 small businesses and entrepreneurs here in Michigan. Now, with that great number, we only have 20 smart zones throughout the entire state. In our region, only 4 smart zones. But Macomb County, Sterling Heights, just 1. Now, why is this important? As I talked about earlier, the difficult things with professionals is you guys make it look easy. And I realized this as we looked at our own entrepreneur ecosystem. When you're online, you're seeing these highlights, these wins, these celebrations. It seems easy to go out there and take this great risk and start your own business. The good thing with Velocity and this incubator, it takes an idea and it gives you insight into if that idea is scalable or not. So before you take out that second mortgage or that personal loan, you can now assess, what does this business idea look like? Is it scalable? Is it profitable? And even on the flip side, you might have an amazing individual with a great idea, but they don't know where to start. Velocity Incubator is a place to start. On the second fold, you might have an amazing entrepreneur who got some good traction, but looking, what do I do to get this business up and going and take it to the next level? That's when the accelerator has been absolutely invaluable. And then you have entrepreneurs such as myself who can lean on the wisdom, knowledge, expertise of some of the great people there. We've been fortunate enough to connect with Regroup, who's one of the advisors over a lot of entrepreneurs there, as we look at how do we become a billion-dollar value company over the next 5 to 6 years. What does it look like for a merger and acquisition, an IPO consideration, or being bought by a larger company? Having people with firsthand experience has been invaluable for us, and that's all here in Sterling Heights. So as we get to the end of the conclusion, I want to let you know I'm here for 2 reasons. First is to tell you all thank you. I know behind the scenes there's a lot of sacrifice to have something like this in the city take place. It doesn't come easy. Money, as we know, does not grow on trees, so that means there's budgets that have to be balanced and put in place to ensure that there's an ecosystem like that here. So thank you. And my second reason, to those either watching now or just viewing later on, Sterling Heights is not only attracting, but retaining great talent. So I have this quote up for those who can view this later on. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Sterling Heights, Velocity Center, thank you all for going together with me as we go on to becoming a global impact around the world. And for those future businesses, entrepreneurs, and the surrounding areas, outside areas, this is the place to be if you're looking to go far. To learn more and follow our journey as we pay it forward, please visit us at www.lighttuition.com today. Thank you all.
And Mayor and Council, I feel like we're filming an episode of Shark Tank. So if any of you want to invest and become equity shareholders, I'm sure Mark would love to hear from you. But all kidding aside, for our students in the room, our college students, please download the app because this could save you thousands of dollars and could be very financially advantageous. Thank you once again. And speaking of college, as you know, we have a very robust internship program in Sterling Heights. I believe it's one of the best in the state of Michigan, maybe the best in the country. And we're going to hear a little bit now from our HR benefits manager talking about the accomplishments this year of our internship program and showcasing some of the initiatives and also recognizing some of the students that are in the audience this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, and Mr. Koszewski. As you know, we launched a more formal college internship program this past May, where we've had an opportunity to work with approximately 20 interns across various departments over the summer. Some of those interns are with us this evening in the audience to my left, and even some of their family members have come tonight to celebrate. Over the course of the program, there were multiple projects and initiatives that our interns either spearheaded or provided strategic support in. This slide, I know it's probably difficult to read, but this slide represents a list of just some of the projects and initiatives in which they have helped with. Many of these programs allowed interns across departments to work together and collaborate with one another. Not only have they been working on meaningful projects, we have also created a program in which we are connecting with them through a biweekly roundtable discussion that has professional development topics, a breakfast with leadership series, and also various events. We've also made a space in the lower level of our city hall that we coined the Intern Hub. This is a space that's designated for our interns to work and collaborate with one another. This program has far exceeded all of our expectations, and we've been fortunate to work with such a wonderful group of young professionals and students. On behalf of the HR team, I want to thank each of our interns for their efforts and dedication throughout the summer. Our internship program has allowed us, as an organization, to build relationships and mentor students and young professionals. And in turn, we hope that this sparks an interest for their future careers in local government, especially Sterling Heights. This slide here includes a list of all of the names of our interns in the departments and offices that they work in. And we would also like to extend our gratitude to our leaders and employees who have embraced and mentored the interns. With their support, it has been a truly meaningful and rewarding experience. And additionally, I would like to acknowledge members of our HR staff who led the program through its success. And this includes Sarah Scowden, who spearheaded the program, and both Caitlin Lee and Hannah Babbitt for their support. And next, we're going to feature a special video, and at the conclusion of the video, I would ask for just a small photo op with council before the station here. So the special video I want to mention is also created by one of our interns who's working with community relations. He's also in the audience, that's Joe. This video will recap the experiences of our 2023 college internship program.
Working in local government is, it's a very special, I guess, or niche field. So without having an opportunity to be exposed to the work that it is that we do across various offices, you could spend your whole life without knowing how a city operates. So giving interns the opportunity to contribute to the teams alongside experienced employees that have been doing this for 10 or 20 years is invaluable. But at the same token, having younger professionals come into the organization and provide their fresh perspectives and new ideas, there is added value, both to the interns, but also to the offices they're working for too.
My favorite part is just getting to know everyone and then working in an environment where people are so friendly and every day they're saying, hey, how you doing, good morning, and working with all the other interns is definitely a good part. In the intern hub, that's been very fun, and just kind of connecting with a bunch of different people. So far, I have learned how the city does the landscape inspections and seeing if businesses are up to code. And then my favorite thing that I've done is just a lot of research. And I've been researching wind turbines and including that in the city ordinance, and researching like greenhouse gas inventory.
Every Thursday in Dodge Park, I assist and support the farmers market operations with Troy Novotny, our farmers market supervisor. And the staff and the team there that he's put together has been really awesome. I really love Dodge Park Thursdays, and between that and the music in the park, it's just a really good time. And I love seeing all the people come out and being able to provide an awesome experience for them.
So I have never worked at a police department nor the city, and since I have been working here, it's been a great experience. Everybody has been super welcoming, super helpful. Everywhere I go, I feel like I learn a new thing, and it's nice to see all the departments come together and work as a team.
I enjoy working for a local government because I know the end goal is to help people, and I've lived here in Sterling Heights most of my life. I'm glad that I've gotten a lot more social media experience through this internship, and I'll be able to use that when I'm looking for jobs in the future.
Throughout the program, we thought it was important to provide interns with even more sort of exposure to city leadership in a more casual setting. So we have a few breakfasts with leadership scheduled in which we've invited leaders across all city departments to come and sort of interact with the interns, meet with them in a breakfast setting, with the intention of, sort of networking. The leaders can talk about how they got into local government and what they love most about, their jobs in the city here. When building out this program and talking with leaders about sort of what we wanted the interns to be working on throughout the summer and their time here, it really was centered around meaningful and strategic work.
Coming here to Sterling Heights is such an amazing opportunity, and I think I've grown a lot even in such a short amount of time, and really kind of gaining more confidence, like I said, but also more proactiveness, more independence, and kind of being responsible for myself and my work, and making sure things are done, making sure I'm on top of it, multitasking, all that stuff. Really just gaining more confidence as a professional and gaining those tools to succeed in the workforce. And while I may be going into recreation, I really think the things I'm learning could help anyone really in any field.
Part of the reasoning behind developing this program was to provide a real meaningful experience to interns and provide them with sort of a glimpse into what it might look like to work for local municipality. Because, when you're talking to a college student, perhaps working in local government is not the first place that comes to mind when they think about where they want to start or spend their career. So, the goal behind this program was to provide them with meaningful exposure and strategic projects and work that they can take with them throughout the rest of their career. Or, perhaps it sparks an interest, in wanting to work in this sort of field.
So Mayor, we're super proud of this program. Sorry, Kate, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have
Okay.
anything more?
Nope, that I just to own, my own just personal touch on and my experience. They are a fantastic group of young students and professionals, and it has been just such a rewarding experience for myself and the HR staff. So thank you so much for that.
And Mayor, I just wanted to add that while this program is wonderful and it's great to do, we do it for selfish reasons too. We do want to build a farm system here, and we want to be able to target and identify emerging leaders, and we want to hire them in our organization. And we've had many interns that have gone on to bigger and better things in our city, in this organization, into directorships. So internships can be incredibly rewarding for the individual, but they're also highly beneficial for organizations like the city. So with that said, Kate came to me before the meeting and said the interns would like to take a picture. And I said, well, I'd love to do that. And Kate said, no, just with the mayor and the city council. So Mayor, if you don't mind, in the council, you're supposed to line up in front of the dais. The interns are going to join you, and they're going to take a quick picture.
And you might want to move over to the side so you don't accidentally get in the picture.
Not you.
You've been told, sir.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Well, you don't.
They are really.
One more.
That's awesome.
Go down the aisle.
Not on my tiptoes, I'm on my side toes. I'm gonna get as
She's got it. We have faith.
Ready? We're gonna do a side check. Okay. All right, got a couple. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
How'd you get a card? Would you ask him?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Sorry.
And Mayor, I have just one more item on my report, and this is to recognize two very special employees that are in the audience this evening, sitting in the front row here, who shall remain nameless for a couple more minutes. But let me first talk about the program for which they're being honored. The Community Development Block Grant Program, better known as CDBG, was developed by the United States Congress in 1974. One of the primary functions of the program is to allow local communities the opportunity to structure the program with federal funding based on their own specific needs. As such, CDBG allocates funding for a variety of community programs with the goal of improving the quality of life of low and moderate income residents. CDBG funding supports community services and services for senior citizens, eligible public improvement projects, and housing rehabilitation. CDBG partners with and funds qualified nonprofit organizations, eligible service providers, and government agencies to accomplish the goals of our program. Some of the recent recipients for funding include Care House, Interfaith Volunteer Caregivers, MCREST, Turning Point, Maggie's Wigs for Kids, and so many more. CDBG further aids the low and moderate income community through home improvement programs such as the Home Property Improvement Loan Program and Minor Home Repair Program, both of which are very popular and we've been administrating for years now. Each program allocates funding to support critical necessary home improvements such as HVAC work, water and heaters, roofs, etc. Through CDBG, over $20 million has been allocated to qualifying individuals and groups over the years through the city's efforts. The CDBG program was recently monitored over an extended period of time by the U.S. Department of Housing Detroit office. Annually, HUD reviews communities to see who will be chosen to be monitored, and this is not necessarily an honor, so to speak. Sterling Heights was chosen only because we had not been monitored in a number of years, and HUD is required to do monitoring, even if there are no complaints or concerns. But as I mentioned, being selected for monitoring is not something communities look forward to, especially knowing that HUD is very stringent in their standards, and their public reviews can be very harsh. The following is an excerpt from a newspaper article recently published on another community's HUD evaluation. The article headline stated, "City receives a failing score in recent federal inspection according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development." The article went on to say, if sufficient improvements are not made, HUD could remove the director and install their own. So HUD takes this very serious, and communities who are evaluated and oftentimes monitored like us also take it very serious. Thankfully, Sterling Heights results did not indicate any deficiencies in our program whatsoever. In fact, the HUD evaluator noted the following exemplary practices in Sterling Heights. He went on to state, the city of Sterling Heights is effectively managing their CDBG funding and was determined to be in compliance with associated federal regulations, and they are doing so with less staff than several comparable communities elsewhere in the state. They went on to say, our monitoring visit included an on-site tour of the senior center, which was determined to be a high-quality feature, which should serve the city of Sterling Heights and their senior residents for many years. Again, they went on to say, our review of completed activities determined that the city of Sterling Heights operates a carefully designed and compliant program focusing on single-family, owner-occupied residential properties. And lastly, they went on to say, staff from the city of Sterling Heights do an excellent job monitoring projects in progress, ensuring contractor work quality, as well as evaluating effectiveness of work completed through by the county through their sub-recipient agreement with the city. The reviews were glowing, to say the least, and I love reading these quotes. I've read them many times now. The city's high marks in the management of our federal CDBG program is due to the exemplary performance of our two coordinators. Teresa Jarzab is a full-time employee who's been overseeing this program for many years now. She's been with the city for 24 years in total. She's worked with the Community Development Department, the Velocity Center, and has been the CDBG coordinator for the past 10 years. And I might also add that Teresa serves as a coordinator and oversees our very complicated and highly successful housing project at Shaner Towers. That project has also received high marks from the federal government, and it serves almost 200 senior residents that live in over 150 units at Shaner Towers. It's a state-of-the-art facility. It's a model for other communities, and it's thanks to Teresa's effort that not only our CDBG program goes so well, but also our housing project at Shaner Towers. And Sydney Aller started with the city about 2.5 years ago as a CDBG intern, and soon she'll be joining our team in a full-time capacity. But during her internship, it was apparent that she excelled with the CDBG program. She has great interest in the program, and she's part of our long-range succession plan for the CDBG program. And without their effort and this highly detailed work that's required by the federal government, we would not be in this exemplary position we're in today. So I really wanted to take this evening to recognize Teresa and Sydney for their outstanding work. I know the mayor and city council appreciates their good work. They see it all the time. We get the accolades and sometimes get credit for your good work, but you two are the ones that really make it happen. And I hope, since you don't have to speak, but you're welcome to, that you'll at least stand and accept a round of applause. Thank you once again. And Mayor, I said that was the last item, but I actually have one last quick thing, and it'll just take a couple seconds. At the conclusion of tonight's meeting, I'm requesting that the City Council convene a closed session pursuant to Sections 8C and 8E of the Open Meetings Act to discuss strategy in connection with collective bargaining, and also to discuss trial or settlement strategy in connection with United States District Court case number 220 CV 11499. And Mayor, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. Quick thank you to Mark Alexander from Light Tuition, Kate Baldwin from our Human Resources, and all the interns that were here, and for all the interns that did tremendous work throughout the summer. Thank you very much. And of course, thank you Teresa and Sydney, for your work as well. With that, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is an ordinance introduction. And this is to consider introduction of ordinances amending the City Code of Ordinances and zoning ordinance number 278 to update standards for installation of driveways and establish standards for coverage of single-family residential front yards with impervious materials, respectively. We do have a presentation from our city planner, Dr. Jake Parcell. Dr. Parcell.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, members of council, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Kashubski. We're bringing back and forward in front of you today an impervious surface ordinance update. This was before City Council once before. We have made some significant amendments and tweaks to it that we're excited to bring before you this evening. And as a note, this was recommended approval 9-0 at the June 14th, 2023 Planning Commission, in which we then shaped it a bit further before bringing it to you tonight. This ordinance is essentially going to establish coverage standards for single-family residential driveways in the city of Sterling Heights. This is being considered because this impervious surface coverage does not currently exist in our ordinance. It also addresses typographical issues and eliminates inconsistencies between the zoning ordinance and the regulatory ordinance. The city's sustainability plan acknowledges the need for the city to act and protect its water assets by reducing pollution and supporting its practice in improving water quality within the city. This also is a direct result of strategic planning 2 years ago from the city of Sterling Heights. So we're excited to bring forward this culmination of work in front of you this evening. If you will recall, at the last meeting, the paving ordinance had a driveway restriction of 24 feet and a cap of 40% of impervious surfaces on the front yard. We reviewed that based on our 60 standards, but to allow for more flexibility moving forward in terms of driveway shapes and paving ordinances, we reduced we eliminated completely the area width requirement for paving in the front yard driveways and increased the maximum impervious surface requirement here as well. This leads to more unique designs that can be found within the city to accommodate for unique lot shapes and accommodate for different lot widths. So you are allowed to build horseshoe driveways for 2 points of access in our busier roads. You see here an example of where this exists in the city, where the impervious surface coverage is less than 45% by about 9%. So it's relatively flexible. It also allows you to have turnaround pads. These are very useful for driveways on residential lots where they need to back in and out, so long as the pad is not exceeding 200 square feet. This also works on busy roads as well to kind of help facilitate safer access onto the streets. What we really made a huge emphasis for, based on council comments at the last meeting, is protecting what our legally permitted driveways in the city currently have. So you are allowed to maintain your existing driveway as is, so long as you are permitted to have this driveway paved as is, inspected by our building department, and maintained as required by the property maintenance code. The significant difference that we made in this one based on feedback from our public hearing at the last time is allowing if the current homeowner purchases a home where the driveway is paved over 45%, to maintain that driveway in perpetuity and replace it in its full replacement, even if the previous homeowner did not have a permit, because in that instance you are assuming something that is non-conforming. We want to protect our residents who have purchased a home with this amount of paving in the front yard, be able to install it without making any drastic changes. The only instance where you will have to come into conformance with this 45% is if you have a non-permitted driveway and you are the current homeowner, and then you'll have to come into compliance and to help dictate the paving coverage on all future development. This is a standard that we see in a lot of other communities, so we're something that we're, really kind of taking best practices for and bringing forth to be fair to the residents and also to help kind of guide with the city's goals aligned with strategic planning. So just in summary, the first draft to now, we've increased the impervious surface coverage by 5%. Completely eliminated the maximum driveway width. If you do recall, there was a requirement at paving work to plant a street tree. That is no longer required under this ordinance. And then in terms of working with grandfathering and nonconformities, we're allowing existing driveways to be replaced with the same dimensions, so long as the work was completed with a permit in the city previously. And with that, I will open for questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Purcell. Before we get to questions, we'll go to the audience and see if there's anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item. If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Sarowski.
So before I do that, we want to do both suggested actions, is that correct?
We're going to have to do both. Mr. Koszybski, should we do one first and then the next?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and do suggested action number 1, to introduce ordinance amending City Code of Ordinances. Resolved to introduce the ordinance amending Article 5 of Chapter 48 in the City Code of Ordinances to regulate the use of paving materials for driveways, extension strips, service walks, and approaches on single-family residential lots.
Support. So I moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Sarowski?
No, I think that Dr. Parcells was very clear on that. We discussed it at length during our previous time that we discussed it, so I'm very happy with the changes. Thank you, Dr. Parcells, and you were quite clear in explaining it today as well, so I have no further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Sarowski. Mr. Radke.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I hope the audience can bear with me. I had a root canal this morning, so
Oh, no.
it's a little tough to talk. I also agree with Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski. I think that the changes seem to bring this ordinance more into the spirit of it. The Planning Commission unanimously passed this, so I think they understand it. The one change I'd like to see is to bring back the street tree requirement, which was also something that the Planning Commission asked for too in the recommendations. They like the street tree requirement. I do too. I'll leave it to my colleagues here, but I'd like to see that come back. Other than that, I think that we've resolved the problem, which is that people who have non-conforming driveways currently, if they had followed the rules, they won't be penalized. But going forward, if you're not following the rules, you'll have to bring it into compliance. So I think that kind of squares the circle, so people won't have to replace their driveway while hopefully, I'm sorry, I hate that house on Mustang, that totally paved over house. So to me, this is much better. So I fully support this. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Council, anyone else? Going once, twice? Look, I voted no on this last time. I do think that it's important that we address this issue for a number of reasons, as was brought up. Our Sustainability Commission, I think this is high on the priority list. We have to be mindful of impervious surfaces, and while I do support everybody's right to do what they can with their property, within limits, we have to be mindful of the other people that live in very close vicinity to everybody else, and how what we do with our property impacts other people. So while I'm generally not looking to regulate people's houses, I do think that the compromise that was made here is good enough, and so I'll be voting yes. So with no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Mrs. Sarowski, do you want to take the second?
I'll go ahead and take that. Suggested action number 2, which is to introduce ordinance amending zoning ordinance number 278. Resolved to introduce the ordinance amending section 31.01 of Article 31 and section 3.04 of Article 3 of zoning ordinance 278 to regulate single-family residential lot front yard coverage with impervious materials.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion?
No, I think that also, on this as well, Dr. Parcells was very clear as we did discuss it at length. The only thing I would like to say is, although I do not want to see paved front yards, it is their choice to have done that at the home that we discussed. So I would maybe encourage them to, when they want to or need to replace it, maybe they would put some grass in. Other than that, I appreciate all the work that was done on this. Thank you, Dr. Parcells, and to the Planning Commission. And I'm happy to vote yes on this when we are voting. Thank you, Mayor Taylor.
Mr. Radke? Nothing? Council, anybody else? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Parcell. Next up is another ordinance introduction, and this is to consider introduction of a map amendment to zoning ordinance number 278 to conventionally rezone property situated on the south side of 18.5 Mile Road, east of Mound Road, from M1 Light Industrial to M2 Heavy Industrial, case PZ 23-0004, 23-0005, and 23-0006. Again, we have a presentation from our city planner, Dr. Parcell.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, members of council. So in front of you tonight, we have a application to conventionally rezone 3 lots on the corner of Mound Road in 18.5 Mile. And while there are 3 lots, there's 3 applications associated with it. All of them are kind of a lump project together, as you'll see, kind of working the whole corner together. So they are all presented under the same presentation. So the application here is the rezoning of just over 9 acres from M1 to M2. The current use is vacant land. This was recommended approval 9-0 at the July 12th, 2023 Planning Commission to City Council. So here is the current zoning map as is, and there were paper copies in the council chambers for you to review if you wanted to before the meeting as well. But there are 5 parcels really owned by the applicant here. That parcel that is landlocked in the kind of southeast corner, the parcel right there with the developed building on it that is connected by a 6-foot little connector up to the parcel with frontage on 18.5 Mile Road. Then the 3 parcels in question at the corner that are kind of descending from the corner downward. These 5 parcels are owned by the applicant. They are zoned a mix of M1 and M2. Under the master land use plan, they are designated as industrial. The master land use plan has no designation between light and heavy industrial. It's all one of the same land use. So here's an aerial image. One site has been developed already. It is the headquarter building down there, zoned M2. There are discussions with city staff to develop the rest of them into an industrial park on the corner. Here's the street view. As you see, the site is prepped and ready for redevelopment. So the proposal in front of you, and we'll get into a little bit of the nuance between the 2 zoning districts, really comes down to dealing with some abnormalities on the site that are a little complicated to explain. So please bear with me, and then I'm open for all questions at the end. But the applicant's interested in further development of these. They have a lot split application in to separate part of the lot off at 41,500 Mound Road. However, they're unable to do so because the property is unique with a frontage on 18.5 and on Mound Road, causing a width to depth ratio problem with the development. The conventional rezoning is under consideration here because it brings all of the properties under the same zoning classification, allows administrative lot splits to happen without going through different variance processes, different boards, and really kind of streamlining the development process here. We're making it as development friendly as possible because these parcels are relatively unique. If you'll see here on the left is the current site layout, on the right the proposed site layout, excluding that 5th parcel in the back. The issue with these parcels is that the curve of the road there was a former, I believe, state trunk line that was proposed. When that fell through with MDOT, the parcels were split up and sold. It kind of came into all these really strange, funky parcels that are resulting on the corner. So the applicant has developed the property at the bottom there. They wanted to split off the property located right where Ms. Richards has her mouse. These are, the red is zoned M2, blue is M1. But that property is too narrow and too long to kind of be a conventional lot as per our zoning ordinance requirements. So rather than getting variances to the lot to depth with ratio, then going through different rezonings and coming back to council, we worked with the applicant to find a path where we can rezone these parcels, bring the whole corner into compliance, and then administratively do the lot split horizontally, dividing it into 4 parcels that way. And that way, the 3 lots can be developed with a use that kind of ties it all together. An additional issue with these is that there's no ability to have curb cuts on 18.5 Mile because of the state deed restrictions. So everything has to be accessed on Mound. They have a curb cut on Mound already that enters into the building at 41,500 Mound. And then everything will be taken care of with cross-access easements throughout the site as it develops into a comprehensive industrial park. So the application here, and I apologize for the small print, I'm trying to really hone in on the difference between the 2 zoning districts here, is that M2, while it's designated as heavy industrial, does allow for some uses that are heavier in nature, but ultimately, as we'll discuss, has safeguards within our zoning ordinance to protect adjacent land uses. So we see in M1 a lot of office research uses, warehousing, light manufacturing, various industrial uses, and then similar uses determined by the zoning official. The M2 uses allows for everything in the M1 zoning industrial district, then additional manufacturing, so long as it is not injurious or offensive to the occupants of adjacent premises by reason of the emission of creation of noise, vibration, smoke, dust, or other matters. So there's protection in place when we look at these and review these through our site plan review that mitigates everything onto the site to help alleviate any concern of this being upzoned to a heavier industrial classification. Additionally, some point of concern that we have heard during the Planning Commission process is how can outdoor storage be addressed on an upzoning to M2. Everything addressed through the site plan review standard is the same as M1. In essence, you have to have everything located at the rear of the building. We have incredibly strict screening requirements of a chain link fence or masonry walls and a greenbelt planting strip, obscuring everything from any adjacent residential or commercial districts or the public street at 18.5 or Mound Road. And then finally, what we have here is kind of the area height and bulk requirements. The main essence that you're getting here with an M2 use on the right, where it should say M2 instead of M1, so my apologies there, is that you get 15 more feet in height and a larger building floor area. These are 9 acres, so it really is making room for a landmark headquarter building to really tie the whole industrial park together. And this upzoning will allow that to be feasible on site. Additionally, if it's a special approval land use, anything that could potentially be done outside or cause any type of noise or vibration, that is reviewed by the Planning Commission, giving it an extra step of regulatory review. And then also through the site plan review standard administratively, there's performance standards in the M2 zoning ordinance that allows for the M2 uses to be good neighbors, as we call it, to adjoining properties. This includes very strict control of noise, odor, glare, vibration, smoke, dust, liquid waste, radiation, and radioactivity. And it has, everything in here, 1 through 14, addressed with requirements that must be maintained on site and not, either visible or affecting sites next to them. So we have very strict requirements within our zoning ordinance and through regulatory control with the Planning Commission through special approval land uses to mitigate any concerns that may come with the heavy industrial district. And essentially, in essence, you see here, we're just rezoning these 3 parcels totaling 9 acres. Ties everything together on the site. Staff believes this is the most development friendly way to move forward with this. Eliminates any type of changes with variances, helps, omit different boards and commissions because we can do the lot split administratively and then help further along the process. And we've been working very closely with the developer on this since I started. So we're very excited to, work on moving this whole corner forward. And with that, I am here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Parcell. Mr. Mancini, anything you want to address with us or be available for questions? Looks like you're prepared.
No suns today, huh?
And I'll introduce myself. I am Steve Mancini, 37532, almost forgot, Hidden Valley Court, Clinton Township, Michigan. I was pretty much raised in Sterling Heights, Utica Road, and Van Dyke. I think we moved in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, went K through 12. And eventually off to Oakland University and worked in Sterling Heights since 1974, part-time, full-time, 1985. I love the city. And I want to thank everybody for giving me this opportunity. I personally, there's a little bit of history. A lot of the, let's call it cleaning up work we're doing is obviously from MDOT. Also, Mr. Bonner approached myself. Rickman was relocating its facility, and instead of locating on 18.5 in Merle, next to the Damon parcel, Mike Damon and I, through Luke, brought us together, and the goal was to move Rickman away from the Damon property and put it on Mound Road, literally adjacent to the scrapyard. So it's a nice buffer. For those of you who have or have not seen our facility, we invested in some dollars for a nice, outdoor space for the patio, and just kind of did a really nice facility. There's a Plum Brook Reserve back there that we intend to expand. There's about 3 miles of paths, so we really are looking deep into what type of facility will attract high-tech, post-COVID friendly. We have a little gym in our facility so that people can not only go for walks in the reserve. There's 2 ponds, 3 bridges, just beautiful back there. A lot of, planting. So the goal is to there's 2 facilities, and I'll share those with you. And if this makes sense, I don't know if we can put that up on the, so I'm not sure what the best way, but north, if you can see north.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm gonna turn this on. So obviously this Mound Road, north being this direction. So this is the parcel that, again, the Mound Road cutoff was this parcel. And the parcel that we call the land swap was the Damon parcel, or the Rickman parcel, and the Damon parcel. So we literally moved the Rickman Mancini headquarters next to the existing scrapyard. So we've got a 220,000 and a 70,000, so nearly 300,000 square feet of what we would call high-tech. We don't anticipate a lot of outdoor storage, but if there's a user that needs it, it'll be definitely screened. I think if anybody has seen our building, they're gonna be our neighbor, they're gonna be our tenant. And so we will definitely make sure it's a high-quality tenant and a high-quality building. And again, we'd ask that you'd consider that in your, in your decision. And I'm just simply here for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mancini, appreciate it. We will deliberate. If we have questions, we'll call you back up.
Thank you.
Okay? Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
resolve to introduce the map amendment to zoning ordinance number 278 to conventionally rezone the property situated on the south side of 18.5 Mile Road, east of Mound Road, from M1 Light Industrial District to M2 Heavy Industrial District, case numbers PZ 23-0004, 23-0005, and 23-0006.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mr. Radke?
Briefly, Mr. Mayor, I see no problem with this. I think it solves the problem for our zoning ordinance, and I think it makes the property more attractive for development. It's buffered, like you said, there's a scrapyard on one side, and there's already industrial behind him, and there's a roadway, a large roadway in between. I think this is probably the best situation we have for heavy industrial in the city. So I appreciate Mr. Mancini's work in the city. I think there's a lot of parking there. I don't like a lot of parking, but I think you're going to do a good job, and, I think you're a tremendous business in Sterling Heights, so I wish you a lot of luck. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Radke. Mrs. Sarowski.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Taylor. I second or agree with our Councilman Radke. Mr. Mancini, you have done good work in our city, and I really appreciate that. I think this is a great compromise, use of the property, using an unconventional piece of property behind to make this work. And good job for the planning, good compromise, and good working together and making great decisions. So I'm really happy to see that we can get this working and making it very attractive to business, and I'm happy to approve this, so I have no concerns, and I'm going to say yes on this as well, so thank you, Mayor Taylor.
Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Through the chair to Dr. Purcell, if we could use your visual, Mr. Mancini, if you don't mind. So on this drawing, there is going to be one curb cut for the entire parcel, or are they going to use the Rickman and the other curb cut? How's that going to work?
So Mr. Mancini may be able to elaborate. I believe there's two right now, one kind of feeding the entire industrial park and one to the south, the Rickman one. So I apologize if I misspoke during my presentation. I know it's deed restricted on 18.5 Mile, and then they'll work with the county on Mound Road.
So just that one on Mound Road for that complex?
This has some history with the Macomb County Road Commission.
Sure.
So the MDOT, what we call limited access, starts here, right here at this jog, and ends literally about right here. And when Rickman was in front of the city about a curb cut for the Rickman headquarter building, the real problem was this Merle Road light, and Rickman left traffic turning into its headquarters, conflicting with the Merle Road. And quite frankly, Damon's entrance is private, it's his. So it put this parcel in a bad light. So that was the reason why this parcel, Mr. Damon and I, through Luke, did a heck of a job on the city's behalf with this parcel. So what the Road Commission has allowed, and because Rickman has large equipment, low boys, big trucks, they allowed two drives, roughly 300 foot of spacing, but there's not going to be any driveways allowed. So these two facilities have to be serviced by this entrance.
Okay, and so right now, those two driveways are there,
Well,
or just the one? The
really,
one south?
just the one, until we get site plan approval,
Okay.
this driveway cannot be installed. But
So is there currently a deceleration lane for that current driveway?
For this driveway, no, and for this driveway, no. The county's not gonna require, they can't because of the bridge. So there's the biggest limitation is the bridge, the Plumbrook Bridge.
Yeah.
So that was really complicated, the guardrail, the poles and everything, so that we worked through HNTB, the county, the city, to come up with a solution that works best for servicing, over 300,000 square feet with two approaches.
Right, no, I just worried that Mound is such a busy road, not having a deceleration lane.
Yep,
But
yep.
if it's not possible, then, okay, I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Counsel, anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Yanis.
Mr. Mancini, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry.
You have a very good graphic.
Yeah. I know it's hard to guesstimate, but there's a lot of parking spaces there. How many, if this is completely occupied, about how many people do you think would be working in this area?
Well,
I know.
that's a good question, because post-COVID, a lot of people are, pre-COVID, a lot of people were building smaller office space. Post-COVID, I think the opposite. So you notice in the Mancini headquarters, it's two-story, almost 18,000 square foot of office compared to like 25,000 shop. Our goal, we've actually proposed a mezzanine, if you see that, offering more office space. Let me turn this back on. So these parking numbers are numbers that meet the city ordinance. So that,
You're allowed to go down now.
yeah, I mean, certainly, it'd be specific to a tenant. I would love to make the building bigger, but the goal is to meet the tenant needs along with the city ordinance on parking.
So, through the chair to city manager, it seemed to me that when we were having our discussions with the county, when we got to this section, the 18 and a half and Mound, there was a bone of contention in regards to sidewalks. And now we're going to have a significant number of employees sort of on this island that they cannot maneuver unless they get in their car and drive somewhere. And do you have an idea where we stand, Mr. City Manager, in regards to not only the sidewalks along Mound, but crossing 18 and a half mile road?
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Yanis, it's a good question. First, there are some logistical issues. There's some significant engineering challenges that we have to overcome before we can get sidewalk in that particular area. As you know, it is going to come up on, first of all, we are going to have contiguous, complete sidewalk on the west side of Mound, 10-foot path from M59 down to 14. So the west side's taken care of. The east side's a little more challenging. We are going to have sidewalk on the east side up to just past 18-mile road, but not in this area, unfortunately. So we have to first address the sidewalk on 18.5-mile road, which is a city road. We have a lot of right-of-way that we have to acquire and make that happen. And then we have to work with the county to figure out where's the crossing going to be on 18.5-mile road. Because it has to be far enough. We either have to have a bridge crossing, pedestrian crossing, or you have to move the crossing further back by AGS to have a safe crossing, and you're not on this curveway. So there's a lot of engineering analysis that has to be done between the county and the city. And then we can figure out, okay, in front of the Rickman facility here and the drain and the bridge, how are we going to cantilever sidewalk over that bridge? That might be the easy part. But so over the next couple of years, we have a lot to work on here with the sidewalk.
Well, certainly, as Mr. Mancini said, they even have a small gym or exercise facility. We're trying to promote non-motorized transportation. It would be a shame to have employees landlocked and not be able to get to lunch or somewhere without having to get in their car and go somewhere. So I think that should become a priority as this property develops. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yanis. Mrs. Zarko.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor.
First of all, Mr. Mancini, I appreciate you compromising with planning. But I have two questions for you. The trail that you talked about that's going to be 3 miles, where is that located?
You know, I should have brought it with me, and I didn't. I was going to blow it up, but Mr. Damon did a beautiful job. I'm going to guess now, it's been a while. There's about a 15-acre, it's called the Plumbrook Reserve. And part of it's on my property now, and part of it, most of it's on his. And we entered in through Mr. Bonner, we entered into a joint use agreement. We entered into a tree preservation easement to preserve the trees, and he had a really nice design. In fact, this building, I'm going to propose we turn it, because this whole preserve is here, and if you add up all the paths, including the paths that we're installing, there's over 3 miles of walking. And it is private, so it is for these, you know, Mr. Damon's tenants and employees, and likewise our tenants and our employees. And it's just a beautiful park. Like I said, there's, yeah, this isn't gonna work, but you can see the ponds. You don't see, that cuts it off. It actually goes to the buildings off of 18 Mile.
Okay.
But, yeah, 3 ponds, 2 bridges, you know, a lot of wildlife plantings. And we're actually working with Alexis on an additional planning. I have a landscape architect adding to the preserve onto the property that we own. So our goal is to expand. This currently is not in the, this is not really shown to scale, but this is not in the preserve. So our goal is to clean this up, add a lot more trees, tree plant, you know, wetland plants and so on. And then add another pathway for my employees to get to the preserve.
Okay, great idea. I think it's a great idea to develop that as a trail. Okay, my other question is we've been talking about the parking. And in some of our newer developments, we're allowing the developer to actually land bank some of their property until they actually need it for parking. So in other words, you would put landscaping there, part of your trail or whatever, and then you'll only make it parking when the need is there. So I hope that when you're making your plans that you'll consider some of that as well. It's a lot less expensive than parking.
It certainly is. And, you know, quite frankly, you'd be surprised how we put parking in some of the strangest places to meet the ordinance. But yeah, we would certainly, again, if a tenant doesn't require the parking, usually they actually require less parking than the ordinance. So we will definitely keep that in mind.
Okay.
And again, work with the city on that.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Zarko. Anyone else? If not, thank you, Steve. I appreciate you being here. Very thorough presentation, and I appreciate you giving credit to Mr. Bonner as well. I know that was not always the easiest land swap, and a lot of issues came up, but you guys worked through it professionally, and Luke does a tremendous job for the city. You know, kudos to our planning department for coming up with this, and for you as well. You did show me around the building and the property. It's phenomenal. It's great. There's a number of amenities in that office, and my employer was there too, and I hope he was taking notes.
I can certainly extend the invitation to all the city.
Yeah.
We'd be welcome to show you the facility. It's really turned out nice.
It is. It's a great facility, and you guys have been great partners for decades and decades. So thank you very much, Steve. We appreciate it. So, Council, without it, Mr. Radke, go ahead.
I apologize. I spoke first, but they made some great comments. So I just wanted to echo my colleagues. I hope that you consider putting sidewalk in. We're going to try to connect it. But also, just so you know, across Mound, we have a industrial district that allows developers to tell us how much parking they want. You're not in that district, but I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to play by their rules. So I would urge, when you do apply, tell us how much parking you need, and the city will work with you, because we know our parking ordinance. We're revising it right now. We're trying to make it less.
I agree with the idea of planning for green space with the eventual expansion of parking, so I'm in favor of that. I'm also would make myself available. I'm in favor of the sidewalk, so, I've been in the contracting business my whole life. Certainly be willing to attend meetings and show the support if the city needs me there.
I think it's going to be a first-class development.
Yeah, thank you. I do too.
So
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me a chance to speak a second time.
Anytime. Thank you, Mr. Radke. All right, council, with no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We'll see you in 2 weeks, but looks good. Thank you very much, Mr. Mancini.
Coffee, if anybody wants to stop by, I'd love to show you the facility. It turned out really nice.
You got it.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there anyone here in the audience who'd like to speak on any item on tonight's consent agenda? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next up tonight is a consideration item, and this is to consider adoption of a resolution establishing the Lakeside Corridor Improvement Authority, designating the boundaries of the Lakeside Development Area, and fixing the number of members on the Corridor Improvement Authority Board. We do have a presentation from our Senior Economic Development Advisor, Luke Bonner. Mr. Bonner.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Good evening, Mr. Vanderpool, members of council. This is a continuation from the last meeting regarding the Corridor Improvement Authority for Lakeside. The resolution this evening establishes the district boundaries that you can see here that we discussed at length last meeting. This district encompasses Lakeside, which we are anticipating will go through a very substantial redevelopment project. And then we also discussed expanding the district outside of the Lakeside proper to include other district or other properties within this district to create just from a bigger Lakeside area with consistent landscaping, signage, materials, et cetera, in the future, that we're able to do that by creating a much larger district, and also could make more improvements in that district as we go forward. The resolution this evening also creates the Corridor Improvement Authority and a board, which we are recommending be essentially a 7-person board. One is a mayor designee. And the other board members are the other 6 members would be a majority of which have a business or ownership interest in the district. One member must be a resident within the district or within a half mile of the district boundaries. And the primary purpose of that board in the end is to create a development plan. That development plan speaks to proposed improvements throughout the district. And the board would also provide guidance on a tax increment finance plan, which is a way to fund those improvements through tax increment revenues over time. So if you have any questions on your deliberation on the resolution, I am here to answer those. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bonner. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor.
Mrs. Zarco.
Resolved to adopt the resolution establishing the Lakeside Corridor Improvement Authority, designating the boundaries of the Lakeside Development Area, and fixing the number of members on the board.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Zarco?
Sure.
I was just caught off guard. There was so much support, I couldn't tell.
I know.
Who it was.
I know. It's kind of exciting, isn't it?
Which is a relief.
Yes. Through the chair to Mr. Koszewski, if you could give us the, as we vote tonight, the number of board members there will be, including the city representative.
Mr. Koszewski?
Thank you, Mayor. The number will be 7 in total, and we like to have odd numbers on our board so there avoids deadlocks.
So the employee will have voting rights?
Yes.
Thank you. That's okay. So it's 7 altogether. And we could, in the future, expand to 9 if we had to get 9. You could add a couple more?
We could.
Okay, sounds good. I'm happy with the way this was presented. I was happy with the way it was presented to us the last time. We've been working on this for a long, long time. You know, we're getting attention from across the country on our proactive measures in order to make sure that this is redeveloped and it's not an empty parcel of 100 acres. So I'm really excited about that. I will say that this past weekend, I went to a wedding at a multi-use development in it was called Pinecrest in Beechwood, Ohio, and I'm sitting at the table texting Mr. Bonner to look this up, because there were so many ideas there that I thought we could use, and then again, learn from their mistakes. And one of them was the width of the roads there, because they do have on-street parking, but between the on-street parking and people trying to go in 2 different directions, it was way too close. But that particular facility got a National Gold Award for its development, but there were condos, apartments, restaurants. On the exterior, there was a medical facility, a movie theater, ice cream parlor, and retail. There were stores there, high-end stores. So it really is someplace that you could be all day. In fact, I'd really like to go back, because just to take notes on everything that they had there. But I thought it was a great experience for me, but I wanted to bring it back here. And if you're Googling, it's the Pinecrest in Beechwood, Ohio, and you'll see what they have to offer. So I'm in favor of the way this sits right now, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Zarko. Like I said, don't know who supported it. Who'd like to go next?
I don't either.
Maria, go ahead.
Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you. Well, I think this was discussed ad nauseum a few meetings ago. I'm very satisfied with this. I think, this is one of many steps to come in this whole process. So patience and perseverance is going to get us through this project together. And really, I'm excited to see this step and the next step to come. So with that, I really have nothing else.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Mrs. Sarowski.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So I'm excited too. I grew up in the era of malls, and my mom would drop me off at the mall. We'd spend all day, my girlfriends and I. And I'm sad to see malls go. I was voted most likely to be found in a mall in college, so that's the very honest truth. I was. And my kids knew all growing up. They knew all the people at the mall, especially at Macy's. They knew them by name. So I'm sad to see this go, a mall and what it all meant go. It was a cultural phenomenon, but we have to. It's no longer a viable use of property. It's no longer how we shop. It's no longer how we buy goods. It's not useful and it's not sustainable. So we have to find the best use of the land, the best use of how we shop, how we live, and to make it work and to work for our community. So just to find, this is, as Mrs. Schmidt said, it's just the first step. And this is still flexible. This is still a work in progress, and we need to find the best way for the land, for what goes into that area, and how we make it work for the community. It's not just Sterling Heights that this is going to affect. It certainly is going to affect Clinton Township, Shelby Township, Macomb Township, and all of the surrounding area. As Mrs. Ziarko said, could be potentially something that affects not Southeast Michigan, the whole region. So we are looking forward to making a big and beautiful area go forward. So thank you. That's all I have, Mayor Taylor.
Thank you, Ms. Sarowski. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Yanis.
So, excuse me for being the skunk at the party, but I'm.
Oh, don't stink it
fine.
out. Come on.
We don't care.
We don't care. You
We don't care, yes.
Okay,
Oh, you don't care that I'm the skunk at the party?
No, we
I
don't
get
care
that.
that you're
Okay.
skunk at the party.
Skunks can be
But,
cute.
You gotta say what you gotta say.
Obviously, I'm on record as not supporting the footprint of this corridor improvement authority. One of the things that that really concerns me is the tax capture, right? When this whole thing started, this was the ring road. This is the mall. It's a great plan. I fully support it, on and on and on. But now, all of a sudden, we move to the south, we move to the west, and I think about the apartment complex that Mr. Gallo's building. Right now, he's paying taxes on an empty parking lot, but once that facility is completely full, it's going to be generating a lot more in tax revenue. And that tax revenue is going to be captured within this authority. It's not going to go to new police cars, new fire trucks, sidewalks, it's not going to go to any of that, except maybe within the sidewalks within the boundaries. So I don't support the footprint of this corridor. I think we should have left it at the Ring Road, and therefore I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yanez. Mrs. Koski?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also have a problem with the boundaries, and I would like to direct my question to Mr. Bonner, if you would, please. What is the purpose of extending the boundary, the capturing of the taxes past the Ring Road? Again, the mall was supposed to support itself, is my understanding. Why are we going outside of that, especially across Shaner?
Yep, so the purpose was to create a bigger district so we could capture taxes outside of the lakeside property to spend outside of the lakeside property. So I mentioned last meeting, you almost have to sort of look at these as two projects. Lakeside is a big project unto itself, but then everything outside of Lakeside we wanted to include in the district so that Lakeside didn't kind of exist in an island unto itself almost, and we wanted to create from just a branding, theme, marketing standpoint, an area that was more inclusive. And so captured taxes outside of the Lakeside Mall development would be intended to be spent outside of the Lakeside Mall development.
So what you're saying is what is collected with Lakeside Mall is what is going to be used to pay back the bond. What is collected on the other side of Shaner and outside that ring is not going to be used to pay back the bond. It's going to be used to develop that area.
Correct, that's the intent. In fact, on the Lakeside Mall projections that we discussed back in November, we are anticipating an excess of TIF capture on the mall project itself. So then there technically would be an excess of TIF capture coming from the Lakeside Mall development project that could be spent outside of Lakeside Mall as well.
I'll say that again. The monies that you're capturing are supposed to go towards the bond, right? Pay back the bond.
So you did make the comment that Lakeside's supposed to stand on its own. That is correct. And back in November, when we went through some of those projections, we did project that Lakeside would pay for itself and there would be an excess from Lakeside as well. And with a bigger district, for example, the excess that Lakeside would produce after the bonds are paid for could be spent in the other parts of the district.
Wouldn't any excess money be used towards the bond? Or
could be.
Are we just taking our time to pay this back over 25 years?
It could be. We just now have a lot of flexibility.
Isn't there interest on that bond?
There is, but honestly, I shouldn't be talking about bonds. So I'd prefer not to talk about them because that is not my job to know and understand how the bonds function. So.
Well, I like the mall project to be the mall project, and why we're capturing taxes on the other side of Shaner and the outside ring, I don't think it should be combined with Lakeside. And the less money that we have to borrow, the happier I would be. So I'm having a great deal of difficulty supporting this project the way it is. So I guess I will continue to vote no. Thank you.
Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support a DDA. It's very frustrating that this is a corridor improvement authority, but I think that ship has sailed. I'm still sad to see that Island Park is not going to be improved through a DDA. I think the council missed out in an opportunity to really improve the area through short-sightedness, frankly. But because we're here, I am going to vote in favor of this, but through the chair to Mrs. Varney, who I see hiding in the back there, it's my understanding that the Lakeside bonds are like 1.5% on average. Am I correct in that? or, sorry, that was at the Mound Road bonds that were 1.5%. I know we,
Oh.
yeah, it's Mound Road, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Mound Road bonds and the bonds that we issued for the DPW at the building at the same time were both under 2%.
Yeah.
Very good rates we got.
Hopefully we'll have better rates when this project gets off the ground.
We'll see. I mean, right now, rates are more like 3.5% or 4%. I mean, if we were to issue them today, we actually got something recently from our bond, like a $15 million bond is at like 3.85 right now.
And remind me of our credit rating as a city.
AA+.
Because we're so large, we get a discount on what the normal bond market would be, correct? And because we don't have to pay taxes on the bonds, investors don't have to pay taxes on the bonds.
Right, so I mean, again, even a 3.85, if you compare that to a mortgage rate or, a rate on a car loan, I mean, 3.85 is still a really good interest rate. It's just when you compare it to what we got a couple of years ago, it doesn't sound so good, but.
Right.
Historically, 3.85 is still an excellent interest rate, which is why, part of the reason why the developers were interested in us bonding, because we can get a much better rate than they can. And so, I mean, that's, and on $45 million, that's millions of dollars in interest you're talking about.
I appreciate it, Mrs. Varney. Again, I'm going to vote yes on this just to get the project moving. I still think we're missing an opportunity, but I'm comfortable with the way the district is currently situated because it's the maximum we can do. We can't add Island Park. We can't add the other things that we should add. So I'm going to vote yes just because. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Radke. Mrs. Zarko.
Thank you. First of all, I'm glad Mrs. Varney's here because I want to reiterate again that we're not going to see a line item on our tax bill for these bonds. We're not going to see it's going to be paid off through the TIF. But the other thing is this is going to be an economic driver for the entire region. I mean, it doesn't look like it now because it's wasteland. But when this is finished, it's going to have a huge impact about the amount of money it's going to bring in, not just to the city, but the cities that are adjacent to it, across M59. So it's a huge project. We better do it right the first time because we're not going to get a second shot at it. So, like I said, it's going to be an economic driver for the entire region, and I think that's what we need to focus on. Nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Zarko, and yeah, that's what I was going to lead with, is that, I know, Mrs. Koski, you had a discussion with Mr. Bonner about the bonding and the borrowing, and, I mean, to be crystal clear to our residents out there, you will have no obligation to pay any of this bond back. As Mrs. Zarko said, there will be no additional taxes paid on your property taxes to pay back this bond. The bond will be entirely paid back by the Lakeside Mall project. If they don't generate enough TIF revenue to pay back the bond, they will have a special assessment on their property taxes, not yours. So unless you own Lakeside Mall, you are not going to be responsible for paying these taxes. If you don't own property inside that circle, you're not going to be paying the bonding back. So that's, I think, a great benefit to our residents is that we can use the leverage that we have in order to bond this, but structure it in a way that the general fund and the taxpayers that live in the city of Sterling Heights, have a business in the city of Sterling Heights, will benefit from this without having to pay a single penny of it ever. So that's a great, I think that's a great resolution there. So certainly, I think it'll be up to this board and up to the developers to determine, whether they want to pay more money down towards the bonding or pay more towards improvements in the district. And that's why I'm in support of a larger footprint here, is that I don't see any real reason why we would have to limit it to just the Lakeside Circle. I mean, we certainly could, but if you've been to Lakeside Mall, if you've been in the area, part of the problem that I have with Lakeside Mall as it's currently configured is, as I think Mr. Bonner might have said, it is an island unto itself. Inside that circle is cut off from everywhere else. So you have all these great businesses just immediately adjacent to the circle, restaurants, doctor's offices, you have senior living facilities, you've got the Kohl's, you've got all sorts of retail and residential there, and it's completely cut off. Have you ever tried to walk from BJ's Brew House to the mall? It's designed in such a terrible way that there's really very limited access to the mall on foot if you're in the surrounding area. And so to me, if we were to just limit the Lakeside Mall Corridor Improvement Area, Authority area to inside that circle, we would be setting ourselves up for more failure there. That by incorporating the larger footprint, we can really drive that connectivity to the rest of the outer ring businesses there, and then incorporate the other side of Shaner Road too, because there's no real clear boundary on the east side of Shaner as to what you'd say, well, what is immediately adjacent to the ring and what isn't. And so I think that taking it all the way down to Canal makes perfect sense. And then if you're going to be down there, you might as well go up the west side of the street as well. And so that's an area that I think is going to become a focal point in Macomb County and in the Metro Detroit region in 15 to 20 years once this is fully developed. And so I think by doing it this way right now, we really are setting ourselves up for a very successful project in the future, one that's cohesive, that connects all of that together. And takes into account, Mr. Vanderpool brings it up frequently, both publicly and privately in meetings, the connectivity to the ITC, the trail through the ITC corridor connecting Dodge Park. This Lakeside Mall project is really, I think, going to be better served having a larger footprint there. So that's why I'm in favor of it. And look, if we were to cut that out of the district, the reality is we might see some additional investment there, but we're not going to see the type of investment that I think we will with it being part of the district. Additionally, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Vanderpool, Mrs. Varney, or anybody else, but the Tony Gallo Sterling Center Apartments project is built. It's built. I would assume it's assessed as built in the 2023 taxes. I don't know. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but it's built. It might not be 100% on the 2023 taxes, but Mr. Bonner, when is this TIF going to go into effect?
So the tax income and finance plan has to be adopted by the Corridor Improvement Authority Board and then recommended to City Council for review and approval. So it isn't until that time that the TIF capture clock starts.
And can you estimate when that would be?
I can't. I would say probably 2024 is when we would start the process of developing the development plan and tax income and finance plan. So let's say it's approved at the end of December 2024, and then the TIF would start years going after that. So Tony Gallo's project, for example, would be built, it would be assessed, and it would be going to the general fund.
Okay. That's good to know. So I'm very much in support of this. I think it's a great project. I think that having that bigger footprint is going to be beneficial for all the reasons I listed before. So for those reasons, I will be voting yes. And without any further discussion, Ms. Riska, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Yanas?
No.
Mrs. Yarko?
Yes.
Mrs. Kosky?
No.
Mr. Radke?
Yes.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mrs. Sarowski?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes. Okay, motion carries 5-2. Thank you very much, Mr. Bonner and Ms. Varney for the assist. All right, we'll move on to the last item on our agenda for tonight, and this is to consider appointments to the City of Sterling Heights boards and commissions. There are a number of them, but before we get to them, I'll open it up to the audience. Got a lot of people here. This is your last agenda item. Anybody? Okay. Council, we have like I said, we have a number of suggested actions tonight. We can start with the Sustainability Commission. This is an open seat with the City Council's appointment to a partial term ending June 30th, 2025. Is there anyone who'd like to make that motion?
Trying to find the motion.
Yeah.
So it's on page, oh, you know, we don't get pages anymore. Oh, my
No, but it's on the, it's
I mean, it's,
Okay, Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
resolve to appoint Riley Maher to the Sustainability Commission, or am I off right now?
That's right.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, it's the Sustainability Commission to a term, partial term ending 6/30/2025, subject to the appointing meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter subsection 4.03, taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
Briefly, Mr. Mayor, the candidate has a lot of skills, the data scientist for DTE, and cares about sustainability. I think they'll be a great addition to the Sustainability Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Radke. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Yanes.
I've known Mr. Maher since he was in high school. He is an excellent person to name to this, to the Sustainability Commission. He was an excellent student, a graduate of the University of Michigan and Ross Business School, also working at DTE, and he is also a gardener who likes to raise succulents. So he's well-rounded, but Riley is a very knowledgeable, very smart, a very detailed-oriented kind of guy, and he's going to be a great asset to our city.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Yanes. Anybody else? I too know Riley, and think he will be a great fit. He's enthusiastic about it today. He even wanted to be here to see if he could get sworn in. I said, no, we're not going to swear you in tonight. But he's enthusiastic. He's a young man who wants to serve his city, and I appreciate that. So good luck, Riley. And you're joining a great board. So with no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, next up, we have the Citizens Advisory Committee, CDBG. This is also an open seat, city council appointment to a partial term ending June 30th, 2024. Is there anyone who'd like to make an appointment there?
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Sarowski.
Okay, all right, let me write her name down. Because it's jumping around here. Okay, and go back to where.
Page 37 of the packet.
I'm getting there.
I still use the old system.
Me too.
I'm just going to this one. So we're doing the
Sorry, Steve, if you're listening.
You and me,
CDBG.
Mike.
Resolved. Resolved to appoint Nikita Jones to the CDB, Citizens Advisory Committee, CDBG, to a term ending June 30th, 2024, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter subset 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
No.
No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up is what do we got? Economic Development Corporation Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. This is an open seat. This is a mayoral appointment to a partial term ending June 30th, 2025. I would like to recommend Ms. Laurel Johnson for this position. Is there a council member that will make that? You know what? Why don't we do this? I only have one tonight, so I'd like Ms. Laurel Johnson to be appointed to the partial term ending June 30th, 2026. So is there a council member who can make that appointment?
Mayor Taylor.
Mrs. Schmidt.
Resolve to appoint Laurel Johnson to the Brownfield Development?
Economic Development.
Economic Development.
Corporation Brownfield.
Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
You know what, if we switch pages. All right, resolve to appoint Laurel Johnson to the Economic Development Corporation Brownfield Development Authority to a term ending June 30th, 2026, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? No. No discussion. Thank you, council. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I do not have anyone for the Economic Development Corporation Brownfield Redevelopment Authority to the partial term ending June 30th, 2025 at this date. And I also am going to pass on the Elected Officials Compensation Commission tonight. So I would entertain a motion to postpone those three appointments to the September 19th, 2023 regular city council meeting.
Support.
So moved.
So moved, sorry.
So moved.
So moved.
Support.
All right, it's been moved 3 times, supported at least once.
Lots of support.
With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, council. All right, that concludes our agenda, and we'll move on to communications from citizens. If nobody is interested in speaking under communications from citizens, we can move on from that.
How many want to speak?
I'm kidding. I know you didn't all sit through this council meeting to hear anything else. So who would like to be first?
You're going to speak.
Yes, sir.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Bowman. Live in Sterling Heights on Utica Road. And it's interesting that Barb brought up the city of Beechwood, because I've been traveling with the work I do. I work out of town on movies and that. And we worked in Ohio a couple years ago, and I stayed in Beechwood for about, I think it was 6 months or so, and it's a beautiful town. So they got a lot to, in fact, I was going to bring up that city tonight and based on what I want to talk about. And I also went to Atlanta, stayed there working on a movie, and they have this thing called the Beltway, and it's where you can ride your bikes for miles. You know, you can ride all day there. And I don't know about that development at Lakeside, if it's going to be anything like that, but, you know, it's something to think about looking at that place too, you know, as far as the design. But the Beltway, it's amazing how on a weekend you can have hundreds of thousands of people riding that, and there's businesses along that are basically independent businesses, one-man shops and stuff, and the people that ride their bikes can stop and eat and drink, you know, they can shop there. Then there's I don't know what it's called, but it's like an old manufacturing facility or something. It's about 8 stories tall, and there's businesses within that, restaurants and that. It's really something else, but I came here tonight to talk about something else. Being that I live on Utica Road, I wanted to talk a little bit about a term called quiet enjoyment and quality of life. And there's the biggest thing lately is there's semi-trucks that are using it. I've been gone for a while, you know, working out of town, so I haven't been here. When I stayed in Beechwood, one of the things I noticed there's signs that say no motor braking, and that's called Jake braking too. They call it Jake braking. And where I live is close to 18 miles, so the trucks are stopping there. And when they motor brake, it like rolls you right out of bed if you're still in bed. I get up at 5 o'clock every day anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I think that we need to put up an ordinance for that within the city, because it's very disturbing. I didn't take the time. I was going to wait till the next meeting to come, but I didn't go see the neighbors and try to get them to sign a letter or something. But that's the thing with the noise pollution. And then the DPW over on Clinton River Road, at 4:30 a.m. yesterday morning, they were, I don't know what they do there. I think it's some kind of the dumpsters or something with the heavy lids on them, or they're dumping semi-truck loads and the doors slamming back and forth. But it usually happens a couple times a week. It's always about 5 o'clock, but on Monday it was 4:30. So I said, you know what? I don't mind 5 o'clock so much, but 4:30 is a little too early for me. So that was the one thing I want to talk about. And there is a charter and code of ordinance of Sterling Heights, it's chapter 31. And it talks specifically about noise pollution and that in that code. So, you know, those couple things I just wanted to talk about. And I absolutely love where I live because I got nature surrounding me there. And it's what I love about it is it's somewhat quiet. And we're in the backyard anyway, not in the front yard. But anyway, that's my talk. And, you know, as far as the lakeside development, you know, I thought, hey, it'd be kind of an interesting place to build like senior living, because we need more of that. And, you know, good quality senior living though. Pete Randazzo and I were good friends when he was alive, and he always talked about building like a high-end senior living with a concierge service and the whole thing. And, you know, who knows, maybe something like that would go good over there. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you, sir. We'll look into that, and if you want to leave contact information with our city clerk, we can have somebody from the city administration reach out and follow up with you about what we can do about both noise issues. Okay, all right. All right, anybody else who'd like to speak? Take whoever wants to come up. I'll get you next, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm Roger Goodrich, resident of Sterling Heights. Is it possible to use the projector?
Yeah, you just put it on the table there, it'll come on the screen.
So I'm speaking on behalf of 5 of us who have criminal complaints on file with regards to public records that have been altered. It's a violation of MCL 75248. And I received, it's hard to read, but it's a letter or email from Captain Colleen Hopper. She suggested that we take our issue up with the Attorney General, Dana Nessel. And then if not satisfied from there, we should go to the FBI. Well, under this code, it says that the venue in a prosecution may be in the county in which the rightful property owner resides. So I'm about to show some news stories that broke over the past week to provide evidence why we don't want to go through Dana Nessel or the FBI. Okay, so that's from a week ago. Now we have proof, massive 2020 voter fraud uncovered in Michigan, including estimated 800,000 ballot applications sent to non-qualified voters, bags of prepaid gift cards, guns with silencers, burner phones, and Democrat-funded organization with multiple temporary facilities in several states. Then that headline reads, "Guns, burner phones, and fake registrations. The buried Michigan voter fraud scandal." GBI Strategies Director Gary Bell had 70 organizations operating in 20 states in 2020 tied to Joe Biden campaign. This one, breaking, Michigan AG Dana Nessel confirms 8,000 to 10,000 suspected fraudulent registrations delivered to Muskegon clerk October 2020, as noted in Michigan State Police report she buried from public. Michigan GOP released report after 2020. County had 30,000 voters, more than reasonably expected. Michigan's lawless Dana Nessel office finally responds to cover-up of Michigan State Police report about semi-automatic rifles and guns with silencers, but we found these big holes in her response. You can turn in 8,000 fraudulent registrations now and walk free the next day. Steve Bannon and Jim Hoff discussed the massive Democrat voter registration scandal by GBI Strategies and Dana Nessel's confirmation of GGB's reporting. Hero Michigan State Police officer confirms that GBI Strategies is operating in numerous states. Michigan AG Nessel is forced to admit the group was caught with 8,000 to 10,000 fraudulent registrations. And then the last one, Muskegon cover-up. Gateway pundit investigators visit registration fraud epicenter and find FBI has stalled investigation and silenced officials. No prosecutions in 3 years.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. We're
Thank
going to
you.
have to leave it at that.
Sure.
Anyone else? I'll take you, ma'am. Yep.
A little hard to get out there.
Hello, my name is Ronnie Demsko. No. My name is Ronnie Demsko. I have been a resident of Sterling Heights for 40 years. Currently, I am a resident at Pine Ridge of Plumbrook Independent Senior Living Apartments. I'm here to protest the $800 being charged by the ordinance for non-emergency medical calls. I feel that there has not been a distinction made between assisted living facilities, which have medical personnel to assist a resident who has a need. The independent living apartments have no medical personnel to assist, no doctors, no nurse, and no medical records in the community. This is age discrimination. $800 is a hardship for seniors living on a fixed income. We are an independent living community. We pay our own utilities, receive mail, claim taxes. How are we different from local apartment buildings and residential homes? I hope you will remedy this situation by treating us fairly. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else under communications from citizens? Yes, sir?
Thank you very much, Sterling Heights City Council. My name is Scott Ogney. I am from Jackson, Michigan. I'm a whistleblower, an independent election investigator, and the organizer of Citizens for Electoral Justice, a 501c4 based in Michigan Center, Michigan. I am also one of the organizers and drivers of what's called the Locust Anti-Criminal Investigations. It is currently active in approximately 20 counties in the state of Michigan, and we are investigating public officials in Lansing, specifically public officials in the Michigan Bureau of Elections, the Office of Secretary of State, in addition to a couple members of the legislature and the Attorney General's office. It was brought to my attention that a letter had been sent by the Sterling Heights Police Department that they basically did not want to touch the case or take the formal complaints. And the concern was that it really should go to the AG. I'd like to read a law. This is MCL 168.941. Peace officers, duty to institute proceedings. Section 941. It is hereby made the duty of any police, sheriff, or other peace officer present and having knowledge of any violation of any of the provisions of this act to forthwith institute criminal proceedings for the punishment of such offender. That does fall on Sterling Heights Police Department if your residents or your community want to instigate a complaint. Your law enforcement has an obligation to follow through with it and present the case to Pete Lucido, the Macomb County prosecutor. And we are prepared to, because we've got plenty of law enforcement that are working this case in various counties throughout Michigan, but some that are not. And we're prepared to proceed with further legal action in the jurisdictions that refuse to do their lawful duty to take the cases, file the criminal complaints. And let me make this point about the Attorney General's office. Dana Nessel, the Michigan Attorney General, is the legal counsel to who? The Michigan Bureau of Elections. She cannot investigate somebody that she legally represents. She also has another conflict of interest in the fact that she's investigating the people investigating the Michigan Bureau of Elections. This is a huge conflict of interest. Your local law enforcement has just as much authority to investigate these cases. We're not asking them to go down and tear down the state government. We're asking local law enforcement to be part of basically teamwork, working with other law enforcement across the state, but to take the reports, get them over to Pete Lucido's office here in this county. That's all we're asking. And there's a lot more that's going to be coming out about these cases. But on behalf of the citizens that want to get the criminal complaints filed through Sterling Heights Police Department, the law says Sterling Heights Police Department should be taking the complaints, processing them properly, and taking them to the office of the Macomb County prosecutor. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. Anybody else under communications from citizens? Yes, ma'am.
Thinking about the things you were saying about Lakeside Mall, and I noticed on TV that they're starting to do a lot of pickleball inside the mall. I don't know if you're interested in doing that, to making it making pickleball in there. But anyway, do you know who is allowed to have those stores in the Lakeside Mall? Is that,
Yeah, so we don't engage in back and forth, like question and
Okay,
answer.
sorry.
So you're welcome to make comments and ask questions if you want, and then
Okay.
we'll try to answer them when it's our turn, when we have the floor.
okay, so there's a store in Lakeside Mall that's called Spencer's. There's pornographic stuff in there, and I know children go in that store all the time. I don't know if anybody's policing that, because there's a lot of pornographic equipment, and there's adult toys. It's like an X-rated store, and I don't feel comfortable having children having access to that. If anyone is kind of like checking that over to see who's purchasing those items. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Mr. Nelson?
Ken Nelson, Sterling Heights, Fire Steel. I just want you to know that most of the people that you were questioning earlier, why everybody was still here, they're here to support this issue with the elections. But that's not what I came to speak on tonight. I noticed here at the city council, I believe that you all received a couple of emails from Jim Bauer. Jim Bauer has worked extensively. He brought his son up with an issue about your impervious driveways, cement. Nothing gets, when people put writing, they aren't even referred to. I gave a copy to Dr. Purcell, and he said, well, my name's not on this, so I didn't get it. You guys need to start answering some questions. At least bring up that these people have put in hard work. They couldn't make it to the meeting. They've got questions. Those questions deserve to be answered, as do all of the people that are out here. I brought up numerous things. Expecting an answer, not here, but at least in writing from somebody. And I don't get it. You need to start paying attention to the residents. You guys are not 7 guys up here. 8, excuse me. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nelson. Anybody else under this portion of the meeting? Come on up, sir.
I'm sorry to hear what you just said.
Yeah, I said, come on up.
Okay. Hi, my name is Roger McCauley. I'm a resident in Chesterfield Township, 25173 All Lock Drive North. And I'm going to ask a couple of questions I do not expect a response to. Have any of you checked your own personal voting records from your clerk? For me, it took me 10 minutes, but I had to drive 10 minutes to my Chesterfield Township office to get my copy of my clerk's report for my voting record and change history. And they were nice, they were accurate, 100%. Then I had to go through a little hoop bells and whistles, and I had to get and see what the state reported my vote to be. I moved into Chesterfield of, I think it was August 2022. The state shows me having been voting from Chesterfield residents since 2010. They showed me having voted every day at midnight. Now, the poll books and all this stuff that's going on, you know, the poll books are a sacred artifact to keep our elections pure and honest. It's supposed to be, the clerk's supposed to retain those poll books so that we can check elections if ever the need arises. What is happening between our poll book data that our clerks are taking and getting accurate, getting over to the BOE, you know, Bureau of Elections? There's stuff being changed. I don't know if they changed my vote. I do know they are changing public records, and that's a felony. And if somebody comes and complains to your police department, there's a felony committed in your jurisdiction, darn well better do something about it. You know, and it scares the bejesus out of me. For my kids, for my grandkids, And I want to ask you guys and the ladies to take that same thought into consideration. What am I doing for the future of my country, my kids, and my grandkids? Are we going to have elections or appointments? Because it seems to me we're having appointments right now. And there's no such thing as a free election. Search your hearts, do your own research, just like I did, and then maybe we get just as annoyed as I'm, obviously, just a little annoyed tonight. So do your jobs as patriots, not as council people, but as American citizens. That's all I ask.
All right, sir.
Good evening. My name is Carol Reed, 23344 Almond Avenue in East Point, Michigan. I came here about the vote because a lot of fraud's been going on. It's all coming out. But on my way here, I just Googled Sterling Heights before I got here, and I see all you guys making such a wonderful effort to improve your city and bring in like good, inspirational people. Good thing about the student loans, I used to be a student loan bill collector, so that's like a mess. But you know what came up, what you're famous for? The golden butthole. In East Point, Michigan, we're famous for being halfway between Detroit and Mount Clemens, so they used to call us halfway. But you guys, when I Googled it, I couldn't believe how long the Google went. And people are dressing up like this for Halloween. Somebody paid $300,000 for that. That's not a halo. Halos go around your head. Buttholes are back here. So if it's going like this, it's probably a butthole, not a halo. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Great representation of what you guys are trying to do here today. I'm certain that'll be very influential on the city council. Who'd else like to speak about this important issue tonight?
Mark Hemmerling. This is directed to the mayor. I don't think what you did with this lady was very respectful or kind. She does not necessarily resemble everybody that's here that cares about election integrity in this country. You voted for Joe Biden. You said Donald Trump was a bad man, evil man, not a man you could vote for. How happy are you voting for Joe Biden now, sir? A man who doesn't even know where the hell he is. He doesn't know how to get off the stage. He can't talk. That's who you voted for. So don't tell us that we're doing and being wrong here because you spent God knows what on some whatever. That's yours. I suggest you people get very serious because we will not have a free country if we don't have free, fair elections. Get into it. Look into it. This is as serious as a heart attack. This country will not exist. We will be China very shortly under this current administration.
Mayor Taylor. Mayor Taylor.
Thank you very much.
Can we discuss procedure with the residents and the clapping, please?
Yeah, look, I'll tell you, we would ask, our council rules ask that you not have outbursts. The clapping, I know it makes you guys feel better. It has absolutely no influence on us. We know you're all here for the election issue. We know you all think that there was election fraud that happened, and you're enthusiastic when somebody else comes up and speaks about it. If we could keep the clapping to a minimum or have no clapping, no booing, things like that, we would appreciate it. Anyone else like to speak under communications from citizens? If not, we'll close that portion, go on to reports from city administration. Mr. Vanderpool, anything tonight?
Nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Koszubski?
We do have 2 matters for closed session tonight, Mayor.
Okay, 2 matters for closed session. I'll open it up to the city council. Are there any reports or new business? Would like to go first?
Oh, I'll start.
Mrs. Zarowski.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So I'm just going to give a quick thank you to the residents for coming tonight. It was great to see you all, and your opinions are nice to have opinions. I do ask that you please understand what data means, and please look at the data objectively. And please go into what data actually is. Voting time and voting recording is always, it doesn't, just look at the data, please. But on that note, I'd want to say today is my 36th wedding anniversary. My husband is Judge Sarowski, and so being that I'm going to take some liberty and just, after 36 years, 4 children, living in the city for 30 of those 36 years of marriage, I want to just wish my husband a happy anniversary. Thank the citizens, the residents, my friends, my colleagues, for the best 30 years of my life. And I appreciate the support that I've had from those. The challenges of those who have not always supported me, and those who have given me the courage to stand up for myself, given me a good thick skin, and look forward to the next, hopefully, 30 years. So that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you, and congratulations to you and Judge Sarowski.
Thank you.
Anniversary.
Council, anyone else? Mrs. Zarko.
Mayor Taylor, through the chair to Mrs. Riska. I always want to give you a chance to respond, but I do have an idea. Is there a way that we could actually educate people on what happens to a ballot? So through the chair to Mrs. Riska. So in other words, whether you get the ballot at the poll or whether you get the ballot at an absentee ballot, is what happens, how do you check that, that it was received? If we could do some kind of video or tutorial to explain to people the process that we use here, okay, I think would be beneficial. The other thing is, we talked about sometimes, is it the voting record that follows the person? In other words, if they move, say I just moved here, but it shows my voting record for the last 10 years that I voted. It's because it's my voting record. It doesn't care where I voted because I live somewhere else, but I did vote. So if you can answer some of those questions, I would really appreciate it.
Ms. Riska?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Mrs. Ziarko, I'll refer to the first part of your question, the voter education. We are planning an extensive voter education campaign coming this coming fall through winter with some of our new voting options, and the life of a ballot is going to be a part of that, so that was already kind of in the works. If the video is a good idea, we might be able to do a video. With regard to people's their voting record, your voting record follows you. So if you were to move out of the city, your record is going to stay with you. So if you move to another community or new voters in Sterling Heights, if you lived in another community, you voted in another community, your voting record is going to follow you. So that is not inclusive of that just one community. It follows you wherever you move to.
Okay. You know what? I take pride in our elections here, and I know that I sat on a subcommittee for elections for the state, and I know that Mrs. Riska did the same thing. And some of our suggestions were actually voted into law by the legislature. So it tells me that we do a pretty good job here. So I know that you have complaints, but be reassured that if you're voting in Sterling Heights, there's nothing going on that's wrong here or fraudulent. So that's really all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Zarko. Anyone else? Nope. Council, anyone else? Yeah, look, I don't know what to say. I mean, I appreciate that you guys are passionate about this issue. We're going to handle it the way that we are required to under law. There is no evidence of any changing of records. I've not been, to be honest, I don't even know what the complaint is. I really don't. I don't know what your complaint is. No, you had your opportunity, and you didn't. Sir, I didn't interrupt you. Did I interrupt you? Okay? No, you can stop talking. You don't have the floor. You're going to stop interrupting. I didn't interrupt you, and you're going to show me the same respect. Okay? So, honestly, I don't even know what the issue is. I mean, we've been talking about voter fraud for 3 years, and I got to say, come on, guys. time to move on. It's time to move on. If you've got proof, present it. If you got proof, present it. There were hundreds of cases filed, all of them dismissed for lack of proof of any fraud. So, I mean, we guys can keep coming up here. You can mock us, you can disrespect us. And if that's the way that you think that you're going to get us to do something for you, well, I don't know what you've been doing your whole life. I don't know that method, I can't imagine that method is very effective, but it ain't with me, okay? I don't take it seriously when you got somebody coming up and talking the way that you did. So I hope you're happy with the presentation you made. That was utterly disrespectful, and I didn't appreciate it. I've seen the memes. Some of them are very clever and funny, and I laugh at them. And, you know, I don't go on Facebook anymore because that place is terrible. But I would share some of them from time to time. I always loved it when I'd get one from somebody, and it's like the 50th time I've gotten it, and they're like, "Hey, have you seen this one yet?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I haven't seen that one yet." But, so, I mean, I can have fun with it too, but I just think that was totally disrespectful, and it really did a disservice to the rest of the people that came and spoke about what is to them a serious issue, albeit one that I just haven't seen not any single shred of proof of any wide-scale voter fraud. And it's been in the news, I mean, constantly for 3 years, and here it is. And it still hasn't been proven, but, you know, as Mrs. Zarko said, we're very proud of the work we do here in the city of Sterling Heights. We're very proud of the professional clerk that we have. And I think that the integrity of our elections are as good as possibly they can be. So, all right. Anybody else? Anything? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn into closed session.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported, Ms. Rivka. How about a roll call vote?
Mrs. Yarko?
Yes.
Kowski?
Yes.
Radke?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Ostrowski?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Yanis?
Yes.
All right, the motion carries 7-0. We will adjourn into closed session. The council may be back. We may not be back, so stay tuned. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned to closed session.